first, the Jesus boy listened attentively to everything the many scribes and scholars said who came to his home in Nazareth, and was able to give exceptional answers. In the beginning, he astonished those scribes who looked up to him as a wonder kid. But then he became more and more silent and listened without speaking to what the others said. At the same time, great ideas, meaningful moral impulses arose in his soul. What he heard from the scribes at that time made an impression on him, but it was an impression which often left a trace of bitterness in his soul, because he had the feeling, already in those young years, that there was much uncertainty, things that could lead to error in what the scribes spoke of based on old tradition, from the old scriptures which are collected in the Old Testament. It was always depressing when he heard that in ancient times the Spirit came over the prophets, that God himself had spoken to the old prophets, and that now inspiration had abandoned the succeeding generations. But he paid special attention to one thing, because he felt that it would happen to him. Yes, that great Spirit, that powerful Spirit which came to Elias, for example, no longer speaks. What did still speak, however, which many believed to be an inspiration from the spiritual heights, what still spoke was a weaker voice, which some believed to hear as coming from the Spirit of Yahweh himself. Bath Kol was the name given to that inspiring voice, although a weaker, lesser voice than that which inspired the ancient prophets, but nevertheless something similar. Some in Jesus' surroundings spoke thus of Bath Kol. Later Jewish scriptures also tell of this Bath Kol. Imagine ourselves for a moment in the soul of Jesus of Nazareth when such he experienced this. It was at the same time, in his 16th, 17th, 18th years, when he travelled, partly because of his trade, partly for other reasons. On those travels he got to know various regions of Palestine, and probably various places outside of Palestine. At that time, an Asiatic cult was propagated over the Middle East, and even in Europe, an Asiatic cult which was a mixture of many other cults, but which was mainly the Mithras cult. One can see this clearly when one clairvoyantly absorbs the Akasha record. In many places, in various regions, temples for the Mithras rituals existed. In many places it was similar to the Attis ritual, but it was essentially the Mithras ritual. In a certain sense, it was ancient paganism, but penetrated by the Mithran or Attis ceremonies. An example of the extent to which it spread is the fact that St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome stands on the same spot where a Mithras cult was previously celebrated. Jesus of Nazareth learned about what was done in those sites when he began travelling around during his 16th, 17th, 18th years, and he continued doing so later. He learned to know the souls of the pagans through physical outer observation. The capacity to do this developed in a natural way, something that others could only attain with great effort. Clairvoyant power. He experienced in those pagan religious rituals something which others did not, shocking things. It may sound fantastic, but I must emphasize that when Jesus was present at certain pagan rituals, as the priests carried out their ceremonies at the altars, he saw that demonic beings were attracted to them. He also discovered that many idols which they prayed to were not images of good spiritual beings, but of demonic powers. Yes, he also discovered that the demonic powers often merged with the faithful who were attending the services. In his 24th year, Jesus of Nazareth came to a place where sacrifices were being made to a certain god at a pagan place of worship. Around it, however, were sad people affected by all kinds of terrible mental and physical illnesses. The place of worship had long since been abandoned by the priests, and Jesus heard the people wailing, "The priests have abandoned us, and the blessings of the sacrifice do not come to us, and we are leprous and sick because the priests have abandoned us." Those people cried out to Jesus. Infinite love for those aggrieved people flared up in his soul. The people must have noticed something of this infinite love. It must have made a profound impression on those lamenting people who had been abandoned by their priests, and as they believed, by their gods. And then arose, instantaneously, in the hearts of most of them, who saw the expression of infinite love on Jesus' face, the need to say, "You are the new priest sent to us." They pushed him to the altar. They placed him at the pagan altar. He stood there, and they demanded of him that he perform the offering in order that they receive the God's blessings. While that happened, while they were pushing him to the altar, he fell down like dead. His soul left him, and the people around him who thought their God was to come back saw that the one they took to be the new priest sent from heaven fell down as if dead. But Jesus of Nazareth's soul felt itself carried up to a spiritual height, to the realm of the sun. And now he heard, as if coming from the realm of the sun, words which he had previously often heard through the Bath Call. But now Bath Call was transformed, had become something completely different. The voice also came from a different direction, and what Jesus of Nazareth heard, translated into our language, may be summarized by the words, Amen. Evil rules. Witness of the severing eye. Selfhood's guilt by others owed. In daily bread now felt, in which heaven's will be not done. For man deserted your kingdom, and forgot your names, you fathers in the heavens. This was an excerpt from the 5th Gospel, Lecture 4 by Rudolf Steiner, given on the 5th of October 1913 in Oslo, Norway. Steiner claimed he was able to see into the spiritual world, and he used this gift to read the Akashic record and discern information about Jesus' life. Nowadays, more and more people are claiming to have clairvoyance or spiritual sight, and many testify that they've seen Jesus appear to them. However, we're not at the point yet when this is taken seriously by the majority, even Christians. Until the day we do take it seriously and perform rigorous science-like investigations into Steiner's claims using the abilities of modern clairvoyance, I don't think there's any harm in keeping an open mind to his discoveries. Thank you for listening.